Welcome. If you are here, you are probably ready to stop thinking about what happened today. Stop planning what needs to happen tomorrow. Stop the quiet running list in the back of your mind that never quite switches off on its own. This is what this is for. This is eyes closed, a place where we slow everything down together with stories. Not dramatic stories, not stories that ask anything of you, just long, gentle, interesting stories about ordinary life, the kind of knowledge that is good to have, told in the kind of voice that is good to fall asleep to. Every episode, I will take something from everyday life, something you have used or touched or walked past without thinking about it, and I will tell you its whole story, where it came from, how it was made, the people and accidents and centuries that brought it to you. Your brain will follow along, just enough to feel gently occupied, and then somewhere in the middle of the story, without deciding to, you will drift. That is the idea. So here is what I would like you to do right now. Find your position, the one you actually sleep in, not the polite sitting up position, but the real one. Pull the blanket up if you have one. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Unclench your jaw if it was clenched. It usually is. Take one slow breath in through your nose and let it out slowly through your mouth. You don't need to do anything with your hands. Just let them rest. You don't need to keep your eyes open. Let them close when they want to. You are not going to miss anything important. The story will keep going. I will keep talking. All you have to do is listen, or not listen, or somewhere in between, which is the best place to be. Tonight's story is about shoes. It is a longer story than you might expect. It goes further back than you might think, and by the end of it, if you make it that far, you will know something you didn't know before, about something you have probably never thought twice about. But first, just breathe and let the day go. It was what it was. Tomorrow is not here yet. Right now, there is only this, your breath, this voice, and a story that is about to begin. Are you ready? Then let's begin. When you came to lie down tonight, you left a pair of shoes somewhere. By the door perhaps, kicked off at the threshold. the way many households mark the boundary between outside and inside, or beside the bed, one leaning against another in the particular angle of discarded shoes, or tucked under a chair, or lined up neatly in a rack if you are that kind of person who does that. They are somewhere in the house right now, still holding the shape of your feet in the slight compression of the insole. In the crease across the toe box where your foot bends with each step. In the wear pattern of the sole that records your weight falls and how your gait moves. The shoes know things about you. Tonight, we are going to follow them back. Not these specific shoes, though we will arrive somewhere close to them by the end. We are going to follow the idea of the shoe. The long and genuinely surprising journey from the first moment a human hand wrapped plant fiber around a human foot to the factory in Vietnam or Bangladesh or China where your shoes were made, to the box they traveled in, to the shop or the screen where you chose them. A shoe seems like such a simple thing. It is not. Somewhere between 40,000 and 70,000 years ago, the bones of human feet began to change. Researchers studying ancient human skeletal remains noticed something unexpected in the fossil record. The smaller toes, the fourth and fifth toes, which in barefoot walking are used for grip and balance on uneven terrain, began to show reduced robustness in populations from this period. The bones became slightly lighter, slightly weaker, slightly less developed than those of earlier humans. This is significant because strong, robust, smaller toes are important for barefoot movement on natural surfaces. The kind of gripping, balancing, proprioceptive engagement with the ground that a barefoot makes on rock and earth and grass. Their weakening and the skeletal evidence suggests that something was protecting and cushioning the foot, that the foot was no longer in direct contact with the ground. Something was being worn. This is indirect evidence. No shoe from this period survives. The materials used would have been organic, perishable, gone without a trace in the archaeological record. Leather, plant fiber, animal skin, all of these disappear in the soil over tens of thousands of years. What we have is the echo of the shoe in the bone of the foot that wore it. The bones changed because the shoe changed what the foot needed to do. The oldest actual shoe ever found is a sagebrush bug sandal discovered in a cave in Oregon, in the United States, dated to approximately 10,000 years ago. It is woven from plant fiber. The inner bark of the sagebrush split into strips and woven in a tie pattern. It is shaped to a foot, narrower at the heel, wider at the toes. Someone made this carefully. Someone wore it. Someone's foot shaped its inner surface over time. 10,000 years later, it is in a museum display case, still holding the ghost of the foot that wore it. Other early shoes have been found in Europe. Sandals of plant fibers from Spain, dated around 6,000 years ago. Leather shoes from the Alps, from the era of Otzi the Iceman. The 5,000-year-old man found preserved in a glacier on the Austrian-Italian border in 1991. Otzi shoes were sophisticated objects. The outer sole was made from bear skin, chosen for its durability and grip. The upper was deerskin. The inner lining was woven grass, providing insulation against the cold of the mountains. Otzi lived and died at high altitude, crossing mountain passes that would require serious cold weather footwear. His shoes, examined by researchers in the years after his discovery, were found to be not primitive or simple, but genuinely well engineered for their purpose. The materials were chosen deliberately. The construction was skilled. The shoe is one of the oldest human technologies, older than writing, older than metal, perhaps older than agriculture. As long as human beings have walked on difficult terrain in difficult weather, they have needed something between their feet and the ground. The ancient Egyptians wore sandals. The sandal is a simple shoe, a sole held to the foot by straps. In a hot, dry climate with smooth stone floors and sandy desert ground, the sandal was perfectly suited to its environment. It protected the sole from heat and sharp stones. It allowed air to circulate around the foot. It could be made quickly from locally available materials. Egyptian sandals were typically made from papyrus, the same plant used for writing, or from palm leaves, woven in a flat sole with straps of leather of plant fiber across the foot. The simplest were rarely more than woven mats with tie straps. The finest were made from leather, carefully cut and stitched with straps that crossed the ankle in elegant patterns. Egyptian sandals were not just functional, they were status symbols, markers of wealth and position. A A wealthy Egyptian sandal might have been made from fine red leather, decorated with gold leaf applied to the straps, perhaps painted on the sole with images of Egyptian enemies, so that the wearer literally walk upon them with every step. There are tomb paintings showing the enemies of Egypt depicted on the soles of sandals, the pharaoh's foot pressing them down. And there are tomb paintings of servants whose specific role was to carry their master's sandal. The master walked barefoot in sacred spaces, the floor of the tomb, the threshold of the temple, but the servants carried the sandals, ready to receive the foot when the sacred space was left. In ancient Egypt, going barefoot in the right context was not poverty, it was reverence. The sandal was put aside before the sacred, just as Moses was instructed to remove his sandals before the burning bush. The ground you stand on is holy, so remove your shoe. The ancient Greeks wore sandals too, and their sandals were objects of significant craft. The sandal maker, the skeletal, was a respected craftsperson. Philosophical conversations in ancient Athens were sometimes held in or near the workshops of sandal makers. The steady rhythmic work of stitching leather providing a backdrop to discussions about the nature of justice and the good life. Socrates himself was famously associated with sandal makers. The kind of leisurely public conversation he conducted with the citizens of Athens happened in spaces of the city where ordinary work was done. The agora, the workshops, the colonnades, philosophy and craft in the same space at the same time. The Romans developed a more varied footwear tradition than either the Egyptians or the Greeks. They wore sandals, the basic calceus, for ordinary use, but they also developed more enclosed shoes for cold weather and for the particular demands of military life. The Caligula, the heavy-soled military sandals of the Roman legionary, was one of the most important pieces of military equipment in the Roman army. It was not a delicate thing. It was a working shoe, built for thousands of miles of marching on Roman roads, with a thick leather sole studded with iron hobnails that gave grip on the stone and extended the life of the sole. A Roman legion on the march covered 20 Roman miles a day as a standard pace, roughly 29 kilometers in difficult conditions. Forced marches could be considerably longer. The Caligula had to last this pace, mile after mile, campaign after campaign, The Caligula is also where we get the name of one of Rome's most infamous emperors, Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus, known to history as Caligula, was the son of the popular general Germanicus. As a small child, he was brought by his father to the military camps of Rhine frontier, where the soldiers adored him. They dressed him in a miniature military uniform, complete with tiny caligae, the sandals of the legionaries. They call him Caligula, little boot or little sandal. His nickname became his name, and his name became one of the bywords of history for excess and cruelty. A shoe, giving its name to an emperor. For most of history of shoes, leather had been primary material. Leather is animal skin, processed to prevent decomposition and to produce a material that is flexible, durable, water-resistant, and breathable. The basic chemistry of leather making, tanning, involves treating the protein structure of the skin with substances that stabilize it against bacterial decay. The word tanning comes from tannin, the group of chemical compounds found in oak bark and other plant materials that were the primary tanning agents for most of history. Crushed oak bark was soaked in water to produce a tannin-rich liquor, and hides were immersed in this liquor for months, sometimes up to a year, for the thickest, most durable leather, until the tannins had penetrated the full thickness of the hide and bound to the collagen proteins of the skin. This vegetable tanning process produced leather with a characteristic firm, slightly stiff quality that softens and molds to the foot over time. Vegetable tan leather boots worn for long enough take on the precise shape of the foot inside them. They become specific. They become yours in a way that no new shoe is. The tannery was an unpleasant place to work. The hides arrived raw and bloody from the slaughterhouse. The tannin pits smelled of rotting vegetable matter and raw hide. The workers who handled the hides, the tanners, were regarded with a degree of social distance in many cultures. Their work necessary but considered unclean. In medieval Europe cities, tanners were required to establish their workshops outside the city walls, or at least downwind and downstream from the main population, for the simple reason that the tannery smell was considered intolerable by those who did not work there. The same requirement applied in other cultures. The tanneries of Fez in Morocco, still operating today, in a district of the Medina that had been working leather since the 11th century, are visible from the terraces of surrounding buildings as cluster of round stone vats filled with dyes and tanning liquors in colors of saffron and indigo and poppy red. Viewed from above, they are extraordinarily beautiful. At ground level, the smell reaches you before the sight does. The Fez tanneries are one of the oldest continuously operating industrial sites in the world. The same vats in the same location by methods that have not fundamentally changed in 1,000 years. The leathers produced there, soft, richly colored, fragrant with a particular smell of good leather, goes into shoes and bags and belts and wallets that are sold across the world. 1,000 years of the same craft in the same place by the same method, still making the material that shoes are made from. A shoemaker is called a cobbler, or so most people believe. The distinction matters historically. A cobbler, in the precise medieval usage, was a repairer of shoes, not a maker of the new ones. The person who made new shoes from scratch was called cordwainer. The word cordwainer comes from Cordovan leather, cordwain, the fine, supple leather produced from the hides of horses or goats in Cordoba and South Spain by craftspeople working in the tradition of Moorish leather working that had made Cordoba famous across Europe. Cordovan leather was the finest shoe leather available in medieval Europe. The craftspeople who worked it, who cut it and shaped it and stitched it into shoes, took their name from the material. The worshipful company of cordwainers, the Guild of Shoemaker in the city of London, received its first royal charter in 1439. It still exists. It still holds its slavery diners and its ceremonies and its charitable functions 900 years after the cordwainers of medieval London first organized themselves into guild to protect their trade. The distinction between cordwainer and cobbler was legally enforced in medieval cities. A cordwainer who repaired shoes, who did the cobbler's work, could be fined by the guild for encroaching another's trade. A cobbler who made new shoes was in violation of the cordwainer's monopoly on new work. The division of labor was specific. The cordwainer made new shoes. The cobbler repaired old ones. Each trade had its own guild, its own rules, its own protection. The medieval cordwainer worked entirely by hand, no machines, no standardized sizes. Each shoe was made for a specific foot. The customer came to the cordwainer and had their foot measured. The cordwainer carved a last, a foot-shaped form, typically from wood, to match the measurements. The leather was soaked until soft and pliable. then worked over the last, pulled and stretched into shape, stitched at the seams, and left to dry on the last until it had taken its shape permanently. A good cordwainer's workshop held dozens of lasts, each one carved to match a specific customer's foot, kept on a shelf, ready for when that customer needed new shoes. The last was the customer's foot, preserved in wood. As long as the last existed, the cordwainer could make shoes that fit without the customer needing to return. The shoes produced by this method were expensive. They were also extraordinarily well fitted, made to the exact shape of a specific foot, conforming to its peculiarities, accommodating its bunions and its arches and its particular width. A shoe made on your personal last, fitted in a way that no mass-produced shoe can match. The poor wore shoes made by inferior craftspeople from cheaper materials, or wore no shoes at all. The quality of your footwear was one of the visible markers of your position in the social order. It still is in different ways, but once it was entirely literal. The fit of your shoe told you exactly where you stood. For most of human history, shoes had no left and no right. A shoe made on a straight last, symmetrical, without a curve to either side, fits either foot equally. This was how shoes were made for thousands of years. You put them on whichever foot they ended up on. You swapped them between feet to even out the wear as one side became more compressed than the other. Straight lasted shoes, neither left nor right, just shoe. Shoes specifically shaped for the left or right foot. Crooked shoes, they were sometimes called, appeared occasionally in earlier history. There is evidence of left and right differentiated shoes in some ancient Egyptian and Roman context, but they were not standard. They did not persist. The manufacturing of left and right shoes as a consistent standard practice began in America. The first American factory to produce differentiated left and right shoes was established in Philadelphia in 1822. The practice spread gradually through the American shoe industry over the following decades and from America to Europe. By the 1860s, left and right shoes were becoming standard in Britain. By the end of the 19th century, the straight last had been largely retired to specialist or traditional applications. Before 1822, for all of human history, before 1822. If you put your shoes on the wrong feet, there were no wrong feet. There were just feet and shoes and a straight last that fit both. This feels as though it should be strange, uncomfortable. How could anyone tolerate shoes that made no distinction between left and right? But the human foot adapts, and the human foot is not as asymmetrical as it feels from inside a fitted shoe. The major asymmetries of the foot, the angle of the big toe, the curve of the arch, are subtle enough that a well-made, straight-lasted shoe, worn and broken in, developed a comfortable accommodation to the foot that wore it. People did not notice the absence of left and right because they had never known anything different. The discomfort of a straight last is only apparent when you have experienced the alternative. This is a thought worth sitting with. The things we find indispensable are often things we only know to be indispensable because we have experienced them. Before the experience, the absence is not felt. The straight-lasted shoe was not uncomfortable to people who have never worn a crooked shoe. The crooked shoe reveals, retrospectively, that the straight one was less than it might have been. What else is there in ordinary life that is less than it might be, that we do not notice because we have never experienced the alternative? The heel of a shoe is a deliberate addition to the natural profile of the foot. The human foot, placed flat on the ground, has a heel that is approximately level with the ball of the foot. The foot is nearly flat. A heel shoe raises the heel above the ball of the foot, tilting the foot forward at the ankle and changing the entire biomechanics of standing and walking. The heel was originally a practical invention with nothing to do with fashion. Evidence suggests that heel boots were worn in Central Asia by Persians and Mongolian cavalry from at least the 9th century CE. The function was specific and practical. The heel of the boot caught in the stirrup, holding the rider in the saddle when the horse moved. A flat-soled boot slides to the stirrup. A heel boot catches. The heel on the riding boot enabled cavalry welfare. It kept the soldiers mounted. It may have changed the outcomes of battles. Persian heeled riding boots came to Europe in the late 16th century, carried by Persian diplomatic missions to the courts of Europe. The European aristocracy, fascinated by Persian culture and military prowess, adopted the heel boot. But the aristocracy were not cavalry riders in their daily lives at court. They wore the heeled boot for its association with strength, with military power, with the exotic prestige of Persia, not for its original function. And then fashion entered. If the aristocracies wore heels, fashion-conscious people below them in the society hierarchy wanted heels too. And the aristocracy, wanting to distinguish themselves, wore higher heels. And the distinction seeking continued, and heels got higher. And by the early 17th century, heeled shoes were fashionable across European courts in both men and women's footwear. Louis XIV of France, the Sun King, who understood better than almost anyone in the political power of personal presentation, wore heels of extraordinary height, often 5 inches or more. His heels were painted red, a color that indicated the cost of the dye, the exclusivity of fashion, the power of the man wearing it. Red heels, the maker of the French aristocracy of the 17th century, an indicator of status so specific that it was regulated. Only those who granted permission by the king could wear red heels at court. The same logic that produced the sumptuary laws about buttons produced regulations about the colors of heels. The body as a surface for the display of hierarchy. Every element of dress a potential signal of rank. Over the following centuries, the history of the heel diverged between men's and women's footwear. Men's heel became lower and more functional as the century progressed, and men's fashion moved towards a certain kind of restrained practicality. Women's heels became higher and more elaborate. The stiletto heel of the 20th century, an extreme expression of a logic that had been building for 300 years. The stiletto, named after the narrow Italian dagger whose blade profile it resembles, concentrates the entire weight of the wearer onto an area the size of a pencil eraser. The physics of this produces extraordinary pressures at the point of contact with the floor. A woman in stiletto heels can exert more pressure per square centimeter on a floor than an elephant. The stiletto heels damages floor. It sinks into soft ground. It makes certain surfaces treacherous. It changes posture, gait, the curve of the spine, the engagement of the calf muscles. It was, and in various forms remained, one of the most significant and contested objects in the history of clothing, carrying with its few centimeters of height the entire conversation about gender and beauty and power and the performance of femininity that the 20th century could not resolve and the 21st century is still conducting. A shoe, a heel, an entire argument about what it means to be a woman in the world. Charles Goodyear spent most of his adult life in debt, in and out of debtors' prison, obsessed with a problem that most people around him considered a waste of time. Natural rubber, the latex of the rubber tree, Hevea brasiliensis, native to the Amazon basin, was known to European scientists and inventors from the late 18th century. It was elastic and waterproof, and it seemed to promise enormous things. Waterproof clothing, flexible tubing, resilient boots. But natural rubber had a catastrophic flaw. In cold weather, it became brittle and cracked. In hot weather, it softened and became sticky, losing its shape. A pair of rubber boots left in a warm room became a puddle. A pair left outdoors in winter shattered like glass. The rubber seemed to offer everything and delivered nothing. Goodyear was convinced the problem could be solved. From 1830s onwards, he experimented obsessively, trying different treatments of rubber with various chemicals, attempting to find the process that would stabilize the material against temperatures extremes. He was mocked. He was jailed for debt. He pawned his children's school books and his wife's jewelry to fund his experiments. In 1839, according to the most famous account, though the details are disputed, Goodyear accidentally dropped a mixture of rubber and sulfur onto a hot stove. When he scraped it off and examined it, he found something unexpected. Instead of melting, the material had charged at the edges but remained flexible and stable in the center. Different from raw rubber, different from anything he had produced before. He had stumbled onto vulcanization, the cross-linking of the polymer chains of rubber by sulfur bonds, creating a material that was stable across a wide temperature range, elastic but not sticky, flexible but not brittle. Goodyear developed and refined the process, eventually receiving a patent in 1844. He did not profit greatly from it in his timeline. His patents were widely infringed. Litigation consumed his resources, and he died in 1860, $60,000 in debt. But vulcanized rubber changed the world, and it changed shoes. Vulcanized rubber shoes attached to canvas or leather uppers gave birth to a new category of footwear. Light, grippy, quiet on hard floors, suited to athletic activity. These early rubber-soled shoes were called sneakers. The etymology is exactly what it sounds like. The rubber sole made no sound on hard floors. You could wear them and move without being heard. You could sneak. The name stuck long after the sneaking capacity of the shoe became irrelevant to most of its wearers. For most of history of the shoe, every shoe was made by hand. The cordwainer, with his last and his awl and his waxed linen thread, stitching sole to the upper by hand, one shoe at a time. The process was slow. The skill required was considerable. The shoes were expensive relative to the wages of ordinary people. Many people, for much of history, owned very few pairs of shoes, or none at all. The American Civil War changed this. The Union Army needed shoes, millions of pairs. The pace of hand production could not meet the demand. The mechanization of shoemaking, which had been developing slowly through the early 19th century, accelerated dramatically under the pressure of military need. The Mackay stitching machine, invented by Lyman Blake and developed commercially by Gordon Mackay in the 1860s, could stitch the sole to the upper mechanically, a process that had previously required a skilled hand stitcher and considerable time. The Mackay machine could produce a stitched shoe in a fraction of the time. By the end of the Civil War, American shoe factories were producing shoes in quantities that handwork could never have matched. The cost of the shoe fell. Access to footwear broadened. The shoe moved from a significant expense to an ordinary consumer item. Further mechanization followed. Clicking machines that cut leather uppers with precision dies. Lasting machines that pulled the upper over the last and secured it. Cementing machines that bonded the sole without stitching. The modern shoe factory is a complex industrial system, a sequence of machines and human workers, each performing a specific operation in a carefully organized sequence. The shoe moving along a production line from cut leather to finished product. A factory producing athletic shoes can produce tens of thousands of pairs per day. The shoes in the production lines of modern factories are made primarily in Asia, Vietnam, Indonesia, China, Cambodia, in factories that employ thousands of workers, mostly women, producing shoes for brands headquarters in Europe and North America. The economics of the global footwear industry are the economics of global manufacturing. The labor is performed where labor is cheapest. The value is captured where capital and brands reside. The shoe in the factory in Vietnam and the shoe on the shelf of a shop in London or New York or Sydney are the same object. The distance between maker and buyer is the distance of global economy, measured in container ships and air freight and the long chains of logistics that move objects invisibly around the world. A pair of worn shoes knows things about you, not consciously, but materially. The wear pattern on the sole, heavier on the outer edge, or the inner, or concentrated at the heel, or the ball of the foot, records how your weight falls with each step. Podiatrists read worn soles the way doctors read x-rays. The shoe was mapped your gait in compressed rubber and leather. A person who overpronates, whose foot rolls inwards with each step, wears the inner edge of the sole faster than the outer. A person who supinates, whose foot rolls outwards, wears the outer edge. A person with a heavy heel stride wears a distinct patch at the back of the heel. A person who runs on barefoot barely touches the heel at all. The shoe records all of this. The upper of the leather shoe stretches in the places where the foot presses most. The crease across the toe box, formed by bending of the foot with each step, deepens over time, becoming a permanent feature of the shoe's surface. The heel counter, the stiff insert that holds the heel upright, softens and deforms under the particular shape of the wearer's heel. An old shoe, examined carefully, is a biography of the foot that wore it. Old shoes are difficult to throw away for this reason. They have been worn in, they have been broken in, they have become, through months or years of wearing, specific to you, shaped to your foot in 1,000 small ways that only repeated wearing produces. A new pair of shoes is nobody's yet. It is a generic object made to a standard template, knowing nothing of the foot you will eventually learn. The process of breaking in a shoe is a process of the shoe learning you, of the leather softening in the places where your foot presses hardest, of the insole compressing into the exact topography of your sole, of the shoe becoming yours. Some shoes are never quite broken in. They remain slightly wrong throughout their lives, too stiff, too tight in one spot, slightly resistant to the foot. Others, the right shoe, the good shoe, the shoe that fits as though made for you, breaking quickly and completely, becoming so comfortable, so fast that you forgot you were wearing them. These are the shoes that are genuinely difficult to part with when they finally wear out. The shoes that feel like a small bereavement when they are gone. The particular pleasure of taking your shoes off at the end of a long day is one of the oldest human pleasures. The relief of it, the moment the shoe comes loose and the foot expands slightly into the space it had been denied. The drop of the heel to the floor and the change of the posture that follows. The pelvis tilting slightly, the spine adjusting, the whole body settling into slightly different alignment now that the heel is no longer raised. The temperature change. A foot that has been enclosed in leather or fabric for hours is warm. The air outside the shoe, cooler, circulating, meets the skin of the foot, and there is a moment of sensation that is neither entirely warm nor entirely cool, but simply relief and the freedom of movement. The foot that had been held in a specific shape for hours, the toe box constraining the toes, the heel counter holding the heel, the laces or straps maintaining a fixed tension across the top, is suddenly free to move in any direction. The toes spread, the arch relaxes, the foot becomes, briefly, something more like the foot it would be if shoes have never been invented. Many cultures mark the threshold of the home with the removal of shoes. In Japan, the genkan, the entryway of a traditional Japanese home, is a step down from the street level, a transitional space between outside and inside, where shoes are removed and placed neatly on the lower surface before stepping up into the home. The floor of the home is clean. The shoes carry the outside. The genkan holds the boundary between the two. Entering a Japanese home without removing the shoes is significantly breach of etiquette, not simply a matter of cleanliness, but of respect for the space and the people in it. The removal of shoes is an act of transition. You are leaving the outside world with all its grime and haste and complication at the door. You are entering a different space, governed by different rules. In many South Asian, Middle Eastern, and Southeast Asian homes, the same principle applies. Shoes at the door. The inside is clean. The outside stays outside. Even in cultures where shoes are worn indoors, there is often an informal version of this. The shoes kicked off at the door after a long day. The household slippers that replace them. The subtle shift in the quality of the evening that happens when the shoe comes off. The shoe marks the threshold between the public world and the private one, between the road and the home, between the armored foot and the bare one. You are on the inside of that threshold tonight. Your shoes are somewhere else in the house. Your feet are at rest. The road behind you, the threshold has been crossed. And that is where we will leave it tonight. You came here to rest, and I hope that is exactly what you are doing right now, or close to it, somewhere in that warm, quiet place between knowing and not knowing, between the story and the sleep. That is the whole point of this. If you made it all the way to the end, or if you're only hearing this now, coming back from somewhere deeper,